She just walked in.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We're about to get started. If you'd like to comment on any of the agenda items, please fill out one of these yellow sheets. Turn them in to Ms. Baggett or Ms. Cole over here, so we can address you properly once the meeting is. Board members, if you want to speak, you have to unmute your microphones. We have new microphones.
There.
Thank you.
I'd like to call the February 6th meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Here.
Here.
Steve Jones.
Here.
Mike Richard. James Higginbotham.
Here.
Milton Seymour. Alexander Davis.
Here.
Francis Miller.
Here. Our prayer and pledge this evening will be led by our students from Crowley Middle School. We ask for everyone to please rise.
Dear Heavenly Father, I would like you to bless Acadia Parish students, teachers, and families. Give them knowledge, forgiveness, and protection. Help guide them to make the right decisions and go through the right path. And bless the communities. In Jesus' name, amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag in the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening. I'm Ms. Lachele, and I want to introduce you to three of my phenomenal students from Crowley Middle. The prayer was led by Ms. Princess Walters, who is a cheerleader and the head cheerleading captain at Crowley Middle School. The Pledge of Allegiance was led by Ms. Sherry Augustus. She is a Beta member and will be competing tomorrow in the solo competition for Junior Beta Club. She also does our morning virtual announcements every morning for us. And then our gentleman that was at the back door, Mr. Jermichael Walters, he was a member of our varsity football and basketball team.
We'd like to have the students come forward and we have a certificate for you. We have another presentation by a Ross Head Start student, and it's by Samara Rose Baptiste. We'd like to call her up to the podium. You might need to move the mic down for her.
She's just gonna stand right here, right? Let me introduce you guys to this little cutie right here. This is Samara Rose Baptiste. She is the daughter of Letitia Walton and Tara Baptiste. She's a 4-year-old student at Rose Head Start. Her teacher is here with us today, Ms. Scott. When we heard that she volunteered her time and her talents for 2 community programs in January, she did the NOK Youth Musical sponsored by NAUW, and she also did the Delta Sigma Theta NOK. So she's going to present that poem to you guys today. Ready? Let's stand right here. Ready? Oh, and the poem that she's going to recite is Hey Black Child by U.E. Perfect. We have a certificate for Samara too. We'll let Ms. David present that to her. Thank you so much, Samara.
Yeah, baby.
Thank you so much. Item 2.1, approved minutes of the January 9th, 2023 regular session meeting, the minutes of the Budget and Finance Committee and Personnel, Insurance, and Curriculum meetings dated January 23rd, 2023, and the minutes of the January 6th, 2023 special session. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes? There's a motion made by Mr. James Higginbottom to approve the minutes. Do I have a second?
I second.
Seconded by Ms. Frances Miller. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Moving on, item 2.2, recognize board members' training hours for calendar year of 2022. Mr. Richard will give that presentation.
Madam President, members of the board, members of the audience, this is an annual item that is required by state law that we recognize board members for their attaining a minimum of 6 hours per calendar year. And this item is a information item only and to be received by the board, so it can be published in the minutes to meet the requirements of state law. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Richard. Are there any questions? No. Moving on, item 3.1. We'll hear a report from our Budget and Finance Committee. I'll turn that over to Ms. Miller.
A motion by Delo Abear, seconded by Steve Jones, sends adoption of the calendar to the full board for approval, and I so move that.
We have a motion by Mrs. Miller. Do we have a second?
Second by Mr. Jones. Is there any comments from the board? Comments from the public? All in favor of the recommendation made by the Budget and Finance Committee regarding the adoption of a calendar for revisions for 2022 and 2023 budget and for the preparation of the 2023-2024 budget? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Moving on. Item 3.3. This is a recommendation from the Personnel, Insurance, and Curriculum Committee. I'll turn that over to Ms. David.
Consider the recommendations of the Personnel, Insurance, and Curriculum Committee regarding the approval of Head Start internal dispute resolution impasse policy 220, 2023. A motion by Milton Seymour, second by Ike Richard. Sending Head Start internal dispute resolution impasse policy 2022-23 to the full board for approval. And I so move.
Ms. David, I must remiss that I've overlooked item 3.2. So we're going to come back to yours and we're going to move on with item 3.2, which is a recommendation from the Budget and Finance Committee regarding advertising for conducting a salvage sale.
Okay. Consider the recommendation of the Budget and Finance Committee regarding advertising for and conducting a salvage sale on March 16th, 2023 at the APEC building. A motion by Steve Jones, seconded by Delo Abear, recommends approval for the salvage sale on March 16th, 2023 to the full board. And I so move that we continue with it.
And it's seconded by Mr. Abear. Are there any questions or comments from the board? Any comments from the board? Any comments from the audience? All in favor for the consideration of voting to have the salvage sale on March the 16th at the APEC building? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Now moving back on to item 3.3, Ms. David.
Motion to approve Head Start internal dispute resolution impasse policy 2022-2023. A motion by Milton Seymour, second by Ike Richard, sending Head Start internal dispute resolution impasse policy 2022-2023 to the full board for approval. I so move.
Second.
And it's seconded by Milton Seymour. Is there any comments from the board? Any comments from the audience? All in favor of the consideration of the Personnel and Insurance Curriculum Committee regarding the approval of Head Start internal dispute resolution policy for 2022-2023, please say aye if you approve.
Aye.
Nay, if you, motion carries. Item 3.4. This is an item where we're going to hear discussion on Monday or Friday as the non-instructional day for the future Acadia Parish School Board calendars. And
Thank you. Received some comment or
right,
President Atkinson. I think the first person.
the first person is Sherry Baggett.
Give us a second, Ms. Baggett, to make sure we have the timers on both screens.
Well, I also want to, while you're doing that, thank the board for allowing me to go over time. I think the first meeting where I spoke, there was 4 speakers and the second were 2. I think 2 minutes is maybe not enough time to get a point across. And so I want to thank you for your consideration on the last two meetings, and I hope you will extend that to this meeting. I'm going to try to be fast. Okay, so on the last meeting, we heard a lot of sounds coming out after the vote. I spoke to Mr. Jones over the weekend after some comments I made outside. I said, I can't believe what I just witnessed. No speaker came up and said, oh, yeah, Monday, here's the reason, here's the thing, here's the data, here's the poll results. And so everything that I was speaking on was overwhelmingly sounding like Friday. And so I understood why Milton voted the way he did. His employees was the voice that he was listening to. But I had no understanding of why anyone else voted any way else. Nothing had been presented. And Mr. Jones told me, and I've known him for 30 years. I respect him. I know he's a stand-up guy. He said he went to the principals of all the schools in his district, and they said their teachers had, I don't know, misunderstood, or I don't remember exact language, but he had polled and gone and spoken to the people, and that's why he voted the way he did. And so I have no problem with Mr. Jones's vote. But I don't understand the way the rest of you voted, especially in light of the article that came out and a conversation had by the president, why you voted the way you did. So I'm going to quote the article. Mr. Richard said, Monday off because teachers changed their minds. Did you poll all the schools, or who'd you talk to? I'm sorry, I don't mean to talk.
It's out of order.
You. That was my question in my mind. I wasn't literally asking him.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
I mean, I don't know if you're all aware, but
Your minutes are up. I'm sorry, Ms. Baggett. We're going to have to ask you to return to your seat. Your time is up.
Wow. I have
Thank you for your
like 2
comments.
sentences. You know why people go to school board meetings and cut up? Because you're not willing to be heard.
You're out of order.
Thank you.
Our next person to come to the podium is Ms. Megan Steele.
Hi again, it's me. So we were also told after the meeting that we, the public, didn't see all of the evidence and research supporting the Mondays. But it's my understanding as an elected public official, a lot more is public record if we do a public record request. I tried personally to schedule a meeting with one of the members. I won't say names, but I did, and I was not emailed back, and that was over a week ago. So I will be doing public record requests to get that research, to get that data that y'all have collected that supports the Monday. Because if y'all had it, it should have been presented to us. And I think we'd have been, as a whole, a lot more understandable as to why y'all chose the Monday over the Friday, whenever all we had was the data we had. You know, it doesn't matter if 4,000 people voted. It doesn't matter if 10,000 people voted. We had what we had. So we will be doing that, and it'll be given to y'all probably in the next day or so. In addition, Ms. Baggett and I and a bunch of other constituents of the parish have been looking at the Code of Ethics, the Louisiana Board of Ethics, for public officials. So that will be something else that we're doing as well. So just wanted to let you guys know.
Thank you for your comments. Her last remaining comments were not directed to the item on the agenda. Thank you. Our next person is Heather Villageway. Our next, we are to act and participate in the meeting following our policies and procedures. And I have the right to call someone to go back to their seat when their comments are out of order. Okay. We have Ms. Heather Villageway speaking.
Good afternoon. My name is Heather.
I had sent an email regarding my concerns, but haven't received a reply. I have children who attend Midland and Morris. Therefore, I know how successful the 4-day week with remediation is. Why change something that was so successful for 20 plus years? Speaking as a mother who has a child with a learning disability, remediation is important. My child has an IEP, yet still must attend remediation due to failing grades. So without remediation, he is basically being set up for failure. What happens to No Child Left Behind? And before anyone suggests remediation could possibly take place on Mondays in the future, how is Monday remediation going to be beneficial? These children will go to school Tuesday through Friday, off on Saturday and Sunday, then go to remediation on Monday to receive help with lessons they've struggled with a week ago. We have voted for Fridays off for a reason. Thank you.
Thank you. And our last, excuse me, our last speaker is Hannah Hoffpower. Hannah Hoffpower.
Good evening. I would like to yield my minutes to Sherry Baggett.
I deny that privilege. If you have comments to make, Ms. Hoffpower, we ask that you make that.
That's okay. I'll say the rest of my comments to the posting.
Go right ahead.
Thank you. Miss Becky, you were gracious enough to visit with me regarding your decision, and I told you multiple times that it just didn't sit well with me. You specifically said a survey is just a survey, and not enough people completed the survey. You said 40% completed the survey. That's probably better than most election turnouts. And I think that you owe everyone in this room an explanation as to why you voted the way you did, because I am your constituent and you did not vote in favor of what those people filled out on the survey. That's all I've got.
Thank you, Ms. Hoffpower. Item 3.5, we are to discuss or consider draft options related to upcoming school calendars.
Good afternoon, everybody. At this point in time, I think it's important that the board, the public, our community understands where we started the whole process. If you could go to the first document. All the board members should have a copy of this handout. There's some additional handouts at the corner. There's additional handouts here. Anybody would like a copy of what we're about to go over? In September of last year, board members discussed and requested that the superintendent and his staff gather information and gather feedback on the possibility of a 4-day work week district-wide across Acadia Parish. We all know that for the past 21 years, there's been a 4-day work week in Ward 5, Esтерwood, Mermentau, Morse, and Midland High, with a remediation period allotted for on Fridays. And Friday is currently the day off and has been the day off. What I'm going to attempt to do tonight is kind of summarize all the steps we've taken since September 26, with some basic goals in mind as we got information and gathered information from other districts, from stakeholders, from citizens, and as elected board members, feedback that they all received from their constituents, just to bring us back to a point where we are now, tonight, on February the 6th, and why there's a sense of urgency to move forward with adopting a calendar, whatever it may be, so we can plan adequately and focus on instruction and not burden parents and the community with everybody wondering where we're going for next school year. So we kept some basic goals in mind in our plan. The goals for any final calendars that would incorporate the 4-day work week continue to be focused on providing quality instruction for students, not extending the workday unreasonably, and maintaining some traditionally recognized holidays. This is a timeline that was given to the board in September when the issue came up. We've pretty much hit the mark on each one of those steps as you go through the document. If you could keep scrolling down to the bottom of the document. I'd also like the board, which the board is very aware, this is not something as simple as flipping a switch and we simply shift to a 4-day work week. There's a lot of things that need to be planned out and put into place for all of us in the community to be able to make this switch and communicate effectively with everyone in the parish that this will impact. And you can see those. I'm not gonna burden you with reading them word for word, but there's a number of adjustments that need to be made from an operational perspective, even down to what nights, what evenings we have school board meetings on. There's a number of policies that need to be changed. There's a number of service providers that we need to schedule. Sports teams, varsity sports teams normally plan a schedule 2 years in advance. So there's some convenience given and consideration given to sports teams to be able to address travel and gate receipts to make it work for both teams, since teams have to travel quite a bit, quite a far ways. Some of our schools have to incorporate that ahead of time. All sports, not just football. So what we've done and provided to the board and the public, we've drafted several options for consideration by the board. The first option is to simply start, now that a decision has been made, to implement a 4-day work week in Acadia Parish district-wide, with Monday being the day off. The first draft starts day 1 of the school year with a subsequent Monday off. Now keep in mind, the goals that we try to incorporate was to provide quality instruction for students, not extending the workday unreasonably for anyone, and maintaining traditionally recognized holidays. We're fully aware, though, especially when we have children involved and we work in the school system, there's lots of things that happen after school. Catechism, practice, dancing, cheer, all of those things, caring for other individuals in your family. The goal is to try not to inconvenience people as much as possible and maintaining quality instruction. If you scroll down a little bit, the other factors that we consider when developing a calendar, whether it's this calendar or calendars in the past or any school system's calendar, is to be able to include some emergency days for emergency closure. Thunderstorms, too much rain, hurricanes, ice, water lines breaking at a school or in a community. All those things, when we close school, if we go beyond the cushion days or the emergency closure days that are built into our calendar, then we have to make those days up. And we make those times up. And it's just not instructionally sound, in my opinion, as superintendent, to say we're just going to add a couple of minutes onto a day, or we're going to take 2 minutes from recess, or we're going to take 2 minutes from the lunch break, or we're going to add dismissal time from 3:55 to 3:57 to try to make those minutes up over an accumulated period of time. It's more instructionally sound to have a consistent schedule for kids. What you see here is a draft. It's an option. In my opinion, it's not one that the board should consider. It's simply for illustrative purposes to outline some of the factors that go into what is considered when a draft calendar is prepared. The thing I'd like for you to focus on tonight,
This first calendar, if we just start going Mondays from the beginning of the school year and keep all the holidays, we extend the day out 440 minutes. We have to adjust all 12-month employees' schedules. We reduce lunch for folks. And more importantly, and the most important thing, in my opinion, is the 24 less instructional days per school year for kids. Next item, next calendar, is a second draft. 4-day work week. Monday is the day off. We established 3 consecutive Mondays in the month of August to get routines down and provide quality instruction for students. We still are required to extend the day out to meet our instructional minutes. If you scroll down to the notes where we can see the notes, this calendar incorporates all the holidays. It starts with 3 5-day weeks. Monday off starts with Labor Day, which is a holiday that we've always recognized for many, many years. There are 4 days incorporated into this calendar for emergency closure, counter to the one that we just looked at that only had 1 day built in for emergency closure. We still would need to extend the school day out to 440 minutes, which again stretches the day out. And we'll look at bell schedules in a minute, and then we'd have to make adjustments across the board for our employees. And this calendar equates to 21 less instructional days as compared to what we're doing now for our students. If you scroll down to the third draft, this calendar incorporates 5 5-day weeks at the beginning of the school year. A little more similar to what Ward 5 does and how Ward 5 has operated on their 4-day work week since they incorporated it. It provides for front loading, so to speak, the beginning of the year. So teachers can assess properly where students are as far as grades. You start to get grades on your report card at this point in time. We have a number of data points we look at as a school system with state test scores and benchmark assessments focused on literacy and math. The teachers are becoming more familiar with the students. The entire school community is becoming more familiar with being back in school. And we have a pretty good read as to where kids are, if they're behind, if they need enrichment, if they're ahead of the game. And it gives everybody to get in the opportunity to get in a routine to do what we're supposed to be doing, which is teaching kids and instructing kids, while at the same time provide some compromise and meet some of the needs that we've heard and the desires of the community and the board to address, to move the whole district to a 4-day work week. This third option starts the year with 5 5-day weeks. The Monday off starts on September 25th, but keep in mind, you still have Labor Day as a break. So you go 3 weeks, you hit Labor Day, then you go a couple of more Mondays, and you kick off the Mondays off on September 25th. It allows us to possibly torque down the number of days from 440 to 435, and it reduces the emergency closure days and allows us some flexibility there. We still need to adjust all the 12-month employees that support the school system as far as their work hours and their lunch and their summer schedule. This particular calendar draft has 19 less instructional days per school year for the primary goal of the school system, which is to educate students. And there's an additional calendar, the next one, sort of hits the sweet spot, in our opinion, from a staff's perspective. And it's a great compromise because it does a number of things for the school system. It allows us to be able to incorporate a 4-day work week into the calendar, very similar to how 5th Ward does it now. The school year starts with 8 5-day weeks, which is not quite totally accurate if you actually take a minute and look at this calendar. You come to school the first. If you could pull September down and August. You come to school, we start school on the 14th. We have 3 weeks in August, get the Monday holiday for September 4th on Labor Day. Then we come an additional 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks. And then it's a natural break at Rice Festival. We get the Friday off, which is a traditional holiday. And then the Monday is the first Monday where the 4-day work week starts. So we accomplish a lot of things and we keep rolling. And if you take a minute and just step back and look at the calendar, there's not any period of time where kids and student staff are reporting for an extended period of time with no break. That has a big benefit for one of the goals of the board, even to switch to a 4-day work week, because there's natural breaks with the existing holidays. We incorporate the 4-day work week on Mondays as decided by the board. We follow a similar model that we've been following in Ward 5, and we are able to accomplish all the things without extending the school day too long to burden parents and students and the community with kids being in school an extended school day. If you scroll down to the bottom a little bit, this calendar starts with 8 5-day weeks. Monday off starts on October the 16th, which is right at the Rice Festival break. 4 days are incorporated for emergency closure. It allows us to turn the dial down on the number of minutes that the state requires to be able to fit that in with a 425-minute school day. The 12-month employees are not as disrupted as they could be with other draft calendars. And there's 16 less instructional days per school year when you compare it to what we're doing now. You could scroll down to the 440-minute. This was also posted to our website. This is a sample bell schedule. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd ask that you bear with me and understand this is a simple draft. Principals have the flexibility with support from the central office to adjust these things to make them work in each community. We have 26 schools in Acadia Parish, and very few of them have the same exact bell schedule for a number of reasons, primarily transportation and bus routing to make sure we can run our 80 routes and get kids to and from school in each community. This is a sample schedule. If you scroll down to the next one, the 425, it actually shortens the class periods a little bit. It's very simple to make adjustments within your current bell schedule to where you could add another recess in the afternoon or extend the recess in the morning, but we have to take into consideration that every school is different. And we work with our principals to afford them the flexibility to make it work for their communities in regards to duty and kids being on campus and all the things that go into a school day or a regular day of life that we need to address as a school system for everyone to try to balance everything out. So this 425 is commensurate with the 4-day work week of the last calendar, draft 4. That goes 8 weeks, basically, of Mondays. And it allows us to thread the needle and balance things out. This is a draft. And I'll illustrate that this is a draft in the next slide. Go to the next one, team. This is just a snapshot of our current bell schedules by ward or community here in Acadia Parish, which is distinctly tied to transportation and the number of buses that run. As you'll note, there's a variety of start times, a variety of end times, a variety of times that schools allow parents to drop kids off. Many of us in the room have had to sit in car rider lines while we're waiting for the school to open to drop our kids off because we need to get our staff at school so they can provide adequate supervision. Same thing in the afternoon. And to make the buses run. Can we do it better? Absolutely. Anything we do can be improved. But this is simply to illustrate to the board and to the audience and to citizens that are interested in the operations of our school system that no one bell schedule is exactly the same. And principals have to make those adjustments with support from us at the office to make a school day be as efficient as it can possibly be, with instruction being the priority. If you go back up to the slide with all the red writing on it. A quick recap. The first draft is 0 Mondays. We start the school year off with no 5-day weeks. Only 1 day incorporated for emergency closure. And there's 24 less instructional days per school year for students. Draft number 2 is a 3 5-day week calendar that establishes a 5-day week in the month of August. And after Labor Day, starting with Labor Day, you start the Mondays off. 21 less instructional days per school year. Option 3 is the 5-week, where you have 5-day weeks to start the school year. And you have 19 less instructional days per school year for students. There's some wiggle room to make some additional adjustments. The last draft is the first, is the one that starts with 8 weeks, still keeps Labor Day after 3 weeks, and allows us to torque down the length of the day, and results in 16 less instructional days per school year for students. And as I noted earlier, and I know this is a lot of information for everybody to digest, but at some point, the board has to trust the staff to move forward with working with our principals to get to a point where we can provide calendars that work for everybody and communicate effectively. The note down at the bottom, the consistent 8-week, 5-day weeks does what we need time to do as educators to be able to assess students. It's right at a natural break as far as the calendar goes. It allows teachers to be able to thoroughly understand where students are in meeting the state standards. It allows us time to get benchmark assessments in, and it's right at the end of the first 9 weeks or close to it, where a parent, guardian would have already received a progress report mid 9-week period to communicate effectively with parents as to where their children are. And then it allows us for, toward the end of that 9-week grading period, to adequately plan for remediation and tutoring or enrichment if a child needs enrichment after a solid 8 weeks of school. If you could scroll down to the next item. We've also provided a framework or a draft. If you could enlarge that just a bit. Thank you. There was some discussion early on when we got into September of last year about remediation and the ability of the board and the system to financially support a remediation model similar to Ward 5. This draft lays that out for the board and the citizens of the community to understand that we think we can do it. We know we can provide remediation. It just may not look like what it looks like in Ward 5 now. We have to be more efficient at how we operate it. The times would basically stay the same. We would try to centralize those locations by ward. We could still pay for transportation. However, we're currently using ESSER funds or COVID relief funds from the federal government to pay the $40 an hour stipend to tutors. That's going to run out. And in order to be able to financially support tutors moving ahead down the road, no matter who's in charge of the system, it would be financially sound to take a look at that stipend schedule and make some adjustments. We all know that that higher stipend rate is designed to recruit teachers to provide the tutoring and remediation. We need to do a better job with rostering who actually needs remediation. That's why the calendar proposal that I'm going to recommend to you tonight allows us that opportunity. It allows us for 8 weeks to thoroughly assess where students are in achieving academic progress towards the standards that they need to cover, or whether they're not. And it helps us to more adequately plan for remediation. We think we can accomplish this by running a couple of routes per ward. And if you scroll down a little bit more, it establishes some base schools by ward, which is, it's a framework. Everything I'm presenting tonight to you is a framework and a draft. But it does, the presentation tonight is designed to bring things a little bit closer to some level of finality. And so there is a remediation framework. And I'll end tonight with this formal presentation, and I'll be glad to entertain questions to the best of my ability with how we started with the last slide. This is our plan from September. A lot more actions have taken place. However, it's a summary. And I'd ask the board to consider the goals that we started this process with. That any final calendars that incorporates a 4-day work week for all of the students, all 9,000 plus students, all 1,250 employees in the system, that, and all parents and stakeholders in the community, that we follow these goals and stick to them, that we incorporate the 4-day work with continuing to focus on providing quality instruction for students, i.e. trying not to reduce instructional days too much, not extending the workday unreasonably to where it's a burden on everyone to work an extended school day and on the students for an unreasonable length of time being in school for 4 days, and maintaining those traditional holidays, and meeting the target to implement a 4-day work week district-wide. And tonight, I would ask the board to consider voting and moving forward on a calendar so we can get to work and continue to move forward with planning for next school year. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Richard. Are there any motions on the item at this time? Do you have a specific calendar that you would like to recommend? Well, if you'd like to make a motion in that fashion, then we can discuss it. It can be seconded, and we can discuss it, and then we can vote. Does anybody have a preference? Would you like to make a motion, Mr. Higginbottom? Right. So which calendar are you proposing in your motion?
Those first 8 weeks. Thank you, sir.
So there's a motion to adopt the calendar that offers 425 minutes in a day. No. Which calendar is it, Mr. Higginbottom? The last one. Oh, the 8th. Okay.
Incorporates 3 solid 5-day weeks in August. We're off for Labor Day as a traditional holiday, and then it incorporates 5 additional Mondays where kids and staff would report to work for a full 5-day week. And the Mondays off start with the Friday off for Rice Festival, and the Mondays off for students start on that particular Monday, right after Rice Festival.
Okay, so the motion was made by Mr. Higginbottom to adopt the calendar that's with the 4-day week with the 8 Mondays. Is that correct, Mr. Higginbottom?
Yeah.
Is there a second? It's been moved and by Mr. Higginbottom and second by Mr. Richard. Is there any discussion from the board?
Yes,
Okay, Ms. David?
I don't think we have had enough time to officially look at the calendars and also to speak to the schools in our district to make a decision tonight.
Ms. Miller?
How many weeks have Fifth Ward been going all these years?
It's been 5.
Since I've been here, it's been about 6 or 7. That's the last 4.5.
This is time for the board's comments. Please come to order. Any other comments from the board?
Sorry, I asked the question.
I'd like to call this point of order. If you would like to speak, you will be afforded an opportunity to do so, but this is time for board discussion.
Madam President, if I may, any of the calendars that we adopt, it's like a lesson plan. It's a path forward. We have all learned that there's sometimes a need to make adjustments due to things outside of our control. Hurricanes, ice storms, pandemics, thunderstorms. We've already used a day and a half this school year for inclement weather purposes. The board always affords flexibility to the systems administration to make those adjustments. And there's one factor that we can't determine at this point in time, and that would be the state testing schedule in the month of April, most likely. And there's various testing schedules that the state provides us. They have not provided us with the testing schedule for next spring at this point in time. So I'm bringing that point up tonight to say that no matter what direction the board goes in, there's gonna need to be adjustments from time to time that none of us can set in stone. The goal and the ask from the superintendent tonight is to move forward with a calendar that establishes what direction we're going in. And while I appreciate the fact that surveys and stakeholder input is extremely important, as was noted just recently when surveys were done, surveys are a small sampling of the community. And we can continue to survey and survey. However, as the superintendent of the school system that's ultimately responsible for the day-to-day operations, I have no problem asking you tonight to please move forward with adopting one of these calendars so we can continue to do the work that we need to do here in the school system and effectively communicate to the parents, the communities, the citizens, and everyone that touches the school system, which is everybody in Acadia Parish, of what our schedule is going to be moving forward.
Mr. Jones, I believe you wanted to make a comment.
Got a couple of these, just like the principals did a couple days ago. When they look at me, we just kept getting one and one and one. And I personally haven't had time to really digest it other than what you said tonight. And I'm like, I think we look at this and determine what direction we need to go, but not without the schools looking at it a bit further. They had a principals meeting and I don't think there was any consensus, and they didn't have the 8-day at the principals meeting from what I understand. So though I know you need to do things and do things prudently, I think we need to back up just one step and get some more input.
Mr. Seymour, did you have a comment?
I just want to echo what Ms. David and Mr. Jones said, because these calendars, when teachers begin looking at them, it's a ton of things that they have to look at. And teachers can point out things and principals can point out things that we don't think about. I'd like to give them time to meet with their staff, look at each calendar and look at pros and cons and why it should and shouldn't be. And I don't think they've had time to do that. I've talked to principal and teachers. They worked all weekend trying to study these things, but it's a rush. And this is a critical situation, and I would not want to make a rush decision. But with that being said, if the board decides to go with the calendar tonight, we're going to make it work. But personally, for me, I would prefer the 5 weeks instead of the 8 weeks on calendar.
Is there any discussion from the audience?
I know you're the big, Madam President, if I may make one final comment. I appreciate every board member's opinion and respect it. At a minimum, I would ask if we're going to allow for more time for consideration from the staff, as we heard tonight, that we remove one of these options, and they're presented with 3 calendars. The first option is not a feasible calendar because it does not incorporate enough emergency closure days, with only 1 being incorporated into there. So if whatever the desire of the board is, I would ask for your consideration to remove draft 1, which is to start with Mondays right at the beginning of the school year.
I would totally.
I wanted to offer to the board that we could make an amendment to the motion that we would set another date to vote on this calendar. Maybe early next week
Madam President, I'll move
or later,
that we
like
remove
on Thursday of this week.
first calendar. I'll make a motion that we remove the first calendar.
The first item 1 off, you make an amendment that, but the motion was on the floor to adopt.
So I think we have a motion on the floor, if I may.
A motion and second,
To adopt draft 4.
draft 4.
We now have discussion about removing 1 calendar and setting up a special meeting next week, as I understand things.
That's just an option.
Madam
If somebody
President,
would like to amend the motion,
it would need to be a substitute motion.
a
Yes,
substitute motion.
that's kind of what I was making.
Okay, so Mr. Seymour is making a substitute motion that we would remove the first calendar and set an additional date to vote on the calendar for the next year, affording board members opportunity to visit and talk with other people in the district, the principals.
Next Thursday.
That's been moved by Mr. Seymour, second by Mr. Jones. Do we want to put the date?
It's up to the board.
Is there an agreeable date that we can put in the motion?
Is 3 days enough to do it this Thursday to get it done?
We could do it, we could meet next Monday, I guess.
We have committee meetings on the 27th. I would ask that we try to get things done before Mardi Gras, if at all possible.
Yes, the sooner the better.
Mardi Gras is the 20th, Mardi Gras is the 20th, 21st, and 22nd, if I'm not mistaken. Today is February the 6th. We have the rest of this week. We have the rest of next week. Then we have Mardi Gras, that the district is closed Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and our committee meetings are scheduled for the 27th.
So would Monday, the 13th give us time? Or do we need to put it like the 16th, the Thursday? February 16th.
Monday, the 13th.
How about the 15th?
That's a week. That should give enough
The
time.
15th?
13th, you talking about?
Okay, so the 13th or 14th? The 13th?
I'm good.
Are we good with that? So the substitute motion is that we move voting to adopt the calendar on the 13th of February.
Removing draft.
And we're removing option 1 as not something that we're going to consider.
Correct.
Okay, so it's been moved by Mr. Seymour and seconded by Mr. Jones. Are there any other questions and comments from the board?
Public.
Is there any questions? Is there any comments from the audience?
I want to know why when I email y'all, I do not get a response. And I know it's not about the calendar. But I email and I get 0 response.
I have to call point for, ma'am. Well, this is a public meeting and we have a procedure to follow.
Maybe I wouldn't be like this. Respond to my email. The first
Yes.
Yes.
You emailed. her.
When you say, I'm sorry, this is very basic. When you say fewer instructional days, but the overall amount of time is the same, right?
The minutes, the instructional
Right.
minutes. We're trying to compress a 4-day work week into 4 days. A 5-day work week into 4.
Yes, sir.
Was there an option just to leave 1 5 alone?
Sir, that's out of order. That item is not being discussed at this time. That's not on our agenda. That's not on our agenda. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about adopting a calendar. Point of order, let's get back to the substitute motion. Are we ready to vote? Okay. All in favor of the motion as said that we would have a meeting on Monday, the 13th to adopt a calendar. 5 o'clock on Monday.
Monday, the 13th,
And we remove draft 1.
draft 1.
And we remove
from the
draft
option.
1 calendar as an option. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
2 no.
No.
3 no.
I can take them off them. Just 2 no?
No, Mr. Abear. Motion carries. Moving on to item 4.1. These are consent items. You've received your packets about assignments and personnel changes. And item 4.2 is to receive our sales tax report. Okay, there's a motion to adjourn by Mr. Jones. Is there a second? Is there a second a second by Mr. Richard? All in favor to adjourn our meeting? Say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, members.
Can't involve.